Yes, you were deceived by them, missing all the warning signs. They disappear before placing a single piece of furniture. Try to hold it with tenderness, then replaced by the other ones. But where do you go when you go quiet? The sweet words roll right off my tongue, how each single sentence is strung, bruised up and broken and scarred. I have written down all that they cared to reveal, all but the very ending, which they were either unable or unwilling to tell me themselves, or maybe they just couldn't see it yet. They are not the laughter or the strangeness I ordered. They are so tender and sweet and as soft as a bouquet of clouds. Still, they consist of the madness I so desperately and achingly want to avoid. Getting to know them more as you remember that we became more soul than body. Crawling onto your lap, placing their hands on your neck, holding on tight. If this is what you truly want, I can wear their skin over mine, their hair over mine. I can wear it like you wear disappointment on your face. It's an old story, really, the opinions shaped by your view, disambiguation and denying. A stained glass window tried to contain and stay balanced. What about the others? With their eyes staring to the 9-panel door. They are slowly created, formed like clay pottery and watered with callous thoughts, overwhelmed by the unknown, pretending that we can predict something that relates to uncertainty. It's quite a breathtaking show to see the way they move by your written rulebook. You let them play with the waves up to their necks at times, trying not to drown in all the expectations. For some inexplicable reason they feel unworthy, pushing limits until their arms are completely stretched. Slowly shifting its weight as rigid fades into smooth, from barefoot to barefoot, up in a spiral of stairs, knowing their curvature like the reminiscent smell of panic. Slice through the skin, dig out and give it some meaning, discarded and displeased by their very presence. Chasing, but they can't find themselves because they are never in the same place, one breath for every movement. Wondering if their feet will take a separate way from their hands. The reality is that they are not dancing, they are taking steps, but none the way your rules apply. Longing for them to stretch with the distant sound of a ticking clock, when there are grander things swirling around them, an eager desire to stay the same, craving what is nearly impossible to achieve, but from where they are now, I can only be sure of a very few things. I am not even sure of the title. They don't care either. The idea that we should know is a heaping pile of socially crafted bullshit, with each languid day rolling into the next. Unheeded swells the unbidden sigh. It makes them unsteady, unceasingly intoxicate themselves to escape from the slavish martyrdom of time. They begin to invent things after a while, fed by you. I suppose it's only human nature to add and subtract from our reminiscences. That strange emotion stamped with their unanswerable woes. The feeling of not feeling being completely disaffected. They are telling the wrong lies. Not even useful. The right lies would at least be warnings. It's awfully terrifying. You may not have meant to, but you did. Fucked them up. You fill them with the faults you had, and add some extra. What luck. What a horrible curse, poison under their skin, worthless prescription on repeat, absurdities no doubt crept in, this metaphorical bubble of existence. and they can't figure out what the hell to do. You are divine, cut up so perfectly without the desire to change. You poke and prod for hours that is so enthralling. I know it's abrupt, they have grown quiet now. Some of them have left, shrinking into a corner, like pressed daisies. For those who have stayed, their prison is their tangible incomprehensibility. And then, how do they go on after the unthinkable happens? They weren't afraid to grieve with empty arms, but of the names randomly plucked from the air, head filled with echoing memories. They became polite and smiled at each other, exactly the way strangers do. Resigned themselves to where they are now, hanging by a thin, tenuous thread. They can feel it twisting above them, gently fraying, cutting themselves off from living according to their inner guts, as opposed to the narrative that you tell us would be right. There is a meeting point between how they imagined it and how it has transpired. To ease the mind of its nagging questions, they drift in and out of each other's lives, making room to reconnect until the empty space is replaced. After months of silence, you, the mutual fear, bring peace. Their attention may be drawn to you, but the few who dare must speak again. To right the wrongs for many, be a shelter for the broken and a cocoon of motivation for those who need confidence, until it feels like blowing in the wind. Watch their gathering shadows that have brought me to a new understanding, the words, and then became a prelusion, something they weren't expecting. A surprising transformation, from nothing to everything. But it's a promise. Pay close attention. You have seen them from a distance, wearing their mantle of mystery, marrying their perfumed silence, soon spread the dismal shade, bowed head and lowered eyes, folded like two white petals. Realization striking, this time I could not bear to pick them up. They drink glasses of clear wine, impossible to see properly, even as darkness bends in on them, closing from every side. They are lying to themselves, calling it unconditional, but I cannot see it. Not yet. Plan to build a secret glass refuge. Think of it as a kind of survival procedure, but there are faces on the wrong side of the wet windows smeared by rain. Even if they separate themselves, breaking the binds of the misconstrued, their silence is too deafening. We were friends in the old days, but they are not my priority anymore. You turned your back, and you turned your back so many times that soon your feet were facing the wrong way altogether, reaching the point at which they rebelled against each other, a forest without trees melted into a desert. It's the right choice to close the shutters and stay so cold. But it was all in vain. Leave the others hanging at eternally vague intentions with turbulent currents churning underneath. You drained them of their identity. The damned whisper cruelty knits a snare, only the self-destructive thoughts to keep them company. They are a deluge of human luggage, a muted mask of nonchalant composure, all calm tranquility on the surface, their dishonest projection masquerading as beige, some vague realization collapsing from the growing pressure of their silence. If I touch my body, does it mean it's still here? Questioning their own sanity, walking around armless, suddenly whole days were blending tighter, creating one endless and subdued loop. Their mental state has been shaken to its core. Describe the day you first knew you were real. It never made sense, worrying over the flaws in confused circles. Don't know how many pieces you got, constantly adding more. Keep cutting all the edges until they are unrecognisable, stuck in the misplaced encounter. A bar fight of untangling, giving the clock a face. Fit the shoes with their tongues. Pull the sorrow from between their legs like silk. Knot after knot after knot, filled with doubts, but still anxiously wandering further. So much noise. What a circus. Does my sudden sassiness upset you? Don't try to make it logical. The only ones who are left are the mad ones. Desirous of everything at the same time, in a cubicle that closes in on them, they will float for a moment and then lash out. In the fell clutch of circumstances, they are going quite mad with the knowledge, accepting the overwhelming number of all dehydration and spite. They created a rich and complex inner life. Most time caught up, lost the minds in the midst of confusion. Compare them with an impossible highway, skidding broadside in a cloud of smoke up to a burning house. The way they are pulled and pushed, it became a constant struggle. But you are always asking more, unashamed and sacrificial. You split their heads open. Notice every subtlety in their environment. It's intense, surrounded when left with nothing but chaotic thoughts. Why can't heads have overflow pipes or simply find structure? They are caught in a disaster with no mercy. The ones who didn't prepare to handle themselves bought train tickets without permission and refused to run. The jealous behaviour over illusions as if we were born with it in our mouths. Unplug it for a few minutes. Do you remember being born? How does one forget something as essential as that? It is a terrible thing to look at oneself and all the while to see nothing. They are crossing the road, the most ordinary thing in the world, but it's the last time they're ever going to do it. I could not count the hours that you tried to cage and contain them. They were labelled, you drained them of their worth, traversed through the rubble, beat them down to nothing with relentless fists of words until they were numb, nothing left but the internal rustle. You have broken the vase and stole the lonely flower, the need to withdraw into a darkened room. Come back! Steal all of the vases, cut all of the flowers, listen for a second. They have tried to change for you. Still unable to release grip, although it gave them blisters, they dropped what they were once holding on to. Leaves are all dead on the ground. The floor seemed wonderfully solid. They lay huddled. Scrape them together with my bare fingers. Thinking beyond the moment, smell the raw, sweet essence of things. Probably shaking hands away motionless, sitting, eaten up by you like plums in the icebox. They were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Doors lead to trapdoors. A stairway leads to nothing. In the end, everyone is aware of this. Nobody keeps any of what he has, like a soggy paper boat. They dipped their toes as though to test if it was cold. They shivered. and never learned to swim. After many years trying so desperately to save the others while her own hands were shaking, it's over. They stand in the centre of their room and can't breathe. This isn't a physical problem. It's about accessing their memories, like a museum of fears. They were visitors, owning nothing. You never belonged to them, they never found you. It was always the other way around. You took all our clothes off. They witnessed all the imperfect parts, but time cannot fill the empty chair. Slowly they did not speak another word. They are free to go. Still, they confine themselves, held in place by their looking, and I, infinitesimal, felt myself, being a pure part of the abyss, caught between being noticed and wanting to disappear, busy in my solitude. But it is they that still cannot see any of what is coming. But the rest of what is coming cannot be seen. Even after it has been covered up, nothing left to see, even as they look right at it. And still I think I'll stay, for one more look at them.